started out with these two hard drives. I think this one is the one that came with the system, but it was making weird noises. Follow me on Twitter, you probably saw it. I think it had this hard drive. It's a 40 gigabytes master hard drive, and I was trying to make this system recognize it on the BIOS. It wouldn't see it. I tried all kind of jumper configurations until I finally settled on limiting the capacity. It has a jumper for that, and then it finally worked. And it's not that bad. I think it's at 32 gigabytes. So now I can finally start installing Windows 98. Unfortunately, I don't have the original system that came with the Premio. But anyway, let's just do a clean Windows 98 install and start from there.
So, today we're talking about this Premio computer from 1997. First, we're going to talk a little bit about context and the Premio PC company. Then, we're going to talk about the configuration of the Premio I have, and finally, we're taking a look at some games on it. Skip with the link on the description at any time you want for any place you want. It was a time when PC builders were plenty. While some people did build and upgrade their own personal computers, pre-builds were considered the only way to go for many nice but non-techie savvy folk. Like today, we have Samsung, Google, and Apple smartphones. Back then we had gateways, ASTs, Compaqs, Packard Bells, IBM PCs with their Aptiva line, and others. This video is about a Pentium II computer built by one of those, maybe a lesser known PC builder called Premio PC. Now, the Premio PC company, which its name means prize in Spanish, Portuguese, and who knows how many other Latin derived languages, was created in 1989, and back when it started, it was all about personal computers. It was a booming market. I suspect it's because there were fast advancements in PC technology, and notebook computers were really expensive. Most households kind of needed a PC for accessing encyclopedias, typing up work or school papers, and playing games. So it's understandable that most families went with the big tabletop PC. The computer at this point represented sort of what a TV represented when they came out in the 40s. You usually had one per house. It was your family computer, not to be confused with the Famicom, the name of the original Nintendo console in Japan, and every family member had their timeshare on the PC. Well, as fun as that sounds, the knowledge to build a PC quickly spread out, and suddenly there were many moms and pops corner stores selling pre-built PCs. Also, many regular computer users realized building their PC wasn't rocket science. In the 2000s, PCs started to turn more into a commodity and less of a luxury item. That meant profit margins were slimmer and competition was brutal. Unfortunately, that led to some of the industry giants going out of business or eventually being bought out. And that leads us to where about we are today. You can still buy a pre-built PC, but those companies mostly survive from corporate deals or selling laptops. Premio PC took a different turn, specializing in selling PCs for industrial applications. Although they've been out of the personal computer market since the 2000s, their company name lives on. As for my system, from my research I found out that it's a Premio LX. The case is robust, thick like a server case, beige like most things from that era. Very nice, no nonsense design. I'm not sure this is the original CD-ROM drive that came with it. I'll assume it is. Works very well for never being messed with. Now, the original hard drive was a 4.3 gigabyte Western Digital Caviar, which isn't working. But it did come with another hard drive that doesn't boot, and therefore I'm installing a fresh copy of Windows 98 SE. The motherboard is a B212 Premio motherboard. Again, from my research, it's a rebranded MSI MS6112. It has 4 ISA slots, 3 PCI slots, and 1 AGP. That's a lot of slots. The I/O setup is pretty standard. 3 slots for RAM, your regular 2 IDE ports, and a floppy disk port. On the back, pretty standard with no onboard sound or video, just keyboard, parallel and serial ports, plus 2 very slow but useful USB ports. We're running a 300 MHz Pentium II, and from the manual it says it supports up to 333 MHz via jumper setting. Not a big jump from the original 300 MHz CPU, but that's fine since it's just a retro machine and I have other machines that cover other ranges of speeds. So the front side bus runs at 66 MHz, but there's also a jumper to run it at 68 or 75 MHz if you feel inclined to do some overclocking. Sounds like a great PC, doesn't it? Well, it is, but the video card is its biggest crutch. It's an ATI Rage 2C, it has 3D acceleration, but it's not a gaming video card by any means. And I do understand why it came with it though. First of all, this wasn't intended to be a gaming PC. The original owner went to school for architecture, and this PC was intended for that use. Besides, the Voodoo 2 was yet to be released, and the Voodoo 1 was already 2 years old by then. You could have had a Riva TNT in there and that would be a whole lot better for gaming, but then we would be just nitpicking instead of taking it for what it is, a solid family or working computer from 1997. And today we're looking at it just like that, which is very close to the way it came out of the Premio PC assembly line. I'm going to add a DVD drive to the empty drive bay, both to cover up the hole and to give me access to reading DVDs. For now, I don't have a beige IDE drive, so the black one will have to do. Now it's time to install the OS, and I'm going to do it using a bootable Windows 98 SE installation CD. And that was completely painless, but usually when I get to this point, I hit a wall of sorts, a wall of file transferring. This motherboard has USB ports, but they need a driver, and I need to transfer the driver files to the PC before I can use them. I can network the PC, but I don't have anything set up, and the network card that's in it also requires a driver that would need to be transferred previously. So here are the other options: burning a CD, and for the sole reason it's not a great idea. Blank recordable CDs are not as plenty today. I could also copy the drivers to a floppy drive, but my lab PC doesn't have a floppy drive port. I could also remove the hard drive, connect it to a hard drive caddy, power it, connect it to the lab PC, and transfer the files I need directly to it, but none of these options seem optimal to me. The easiest way I've found to do this is connecting an IDE to SD card reader in the IDE 2 port instead of the CD-ROM drive temporarily, so that I can transfer the drivers I need so I can start using the USB ports. I have an SD card reader on the lab PC, so that makes it easy enough. Okay, now it's time to look at some games running on the Premio Pentium II. On the games that I can, I want to use 3D acceleration, but know that the video card in this system is not 100% suited for that. MDK, or Murder Death Kill, is a game that came out in the first semester of 1997, and it has a direct 3D option as well as a software rendering option. It runs alright in direct 3D here, it's not very demanding, and it's perfect for this demonstration. Maybe this is why this game was such a big hit when it was released. You could run it with an office PC and have fun. To be fair, it does have its slowdowns on open areas, but it works. There's no acceleration for Quake 2 as it doesn't support DirectX, and the Rage 2C, as far as I can tell, has no support for OpenGL at all. So we have to run Quake 2 in software rendering mode. I'm running the game in 640 by 480, it's not a terrible experience, but not great. It's right in the limit of what I consider playable, and that's because I'm not picky at all. The time demo finished with 17 FPS, which sounds horrible. But it's not as bad when you're actually playing the game. And that's because the biggest hit in FPS on the time demo comes from the big explosions, and you don't see that all the time when you're playing. Bond is a game that runs well while in software rendering mode, but it supports ATI SIF and it runs well enough in that mode as well. There isn't a big difference from software to hardware rendering to me. Mostly the shadow has little dots in software mode. It's fun and it runs well, but basically anything runs pod, right? The next games are a bit of a low point in the Premio P2 retro experience, but I promise the last one is going to be good, so stick around. So Turok gives me all of these options for video cards, including a couple for ATI. But in any case, no matter what option I choose, the results are the same. Lousy. Which is a feat, because I think this is very close to what my Rust Bucket 486 did with a Voodoo 1. 486, this is a Pentium II. But yeah, of course, the issue is with the video card. So let's take a look at the next one. This is Delta Force. I don't usually try these games, but the Delta Force series clearly have a big following. Every time I use a Delta Force game, people comment. This is the original Delta Force from 1998, and different from Quake 2, this has definitely crossed the unplayable limit. Like Turok, it's way too slow. Seems like a fun game. I'll play it a bit more after the upgrade. Die by the Sword is a game from 1998, and it ran poorly in software rendering mode, and it didn't run at all in Direct 3D. Missing textures, it's just too new and demanding for the Rage 2C. In Half-Life, we do see why this video card sometimes can be called a 3D decelerator. The game actually runs better in software mode than in Direct 3D using the Rage 2C. So another terrible result. So the system should be quite adequate to run all of these games, including Tomb Raider 2, but the video card is not up to snuff when it comes to gaming. I suppose you could play the game like this if you really wanted to, but at this point, with this frame rate, it's not really great. Okay, now for our final game, and definitely a win. When I mentioned about the Premio on Twitter, my buddy Nathan from Pixel Pipes recommended Forsaken, and I see why. This is where the Rage 2C is at its best. Using software renderer at 640 by 480, the game is unplayable. Basically a slideshow. Now, when you use the incredible 3D acceleration power of the Rage 2C, the game actually looks good and it's quite playable. Now you have to disable bilinear filtering, but you can enable perspective correction and it looks fantastic. I have to say, I would still want to run this game in a bit faster video card, but yeah, this is the one game in which the Rage 2C actually surprised me. Of course, you can run a plethora of DOS games, most of them support software rendering, and if you have this system, you would comfortably play 99% of DOS games at a comfortable frame rate. Okay, so that was it for the Premio system. I'm very happy with it. Whenever I turn it on, I truly feel I'm using a time capsule. It had been a while since I felt this way, and I do want to spend more time exploring games in the system, but everyone knows there's one thing missing here.